Rain in the Face was a Hunkpapa Lakota Sioux warrior and chief who was instrumental in the defeat of Lieutenant Colonel George Armstrong Custer's 7th Cavalry Regiment at the Battle of Little Bighorn in 1876. Rain in the Face was renowned for his valor and combat prowess. It was also claimed that he harbored a personal grudge against Custer since he thought the latter had murdered his sister and brother in a prior conflict. Rain in the Face may have delivered the decisive blow that killed Custer during the Battle of Little Bighorn, according to some stories, and was one of the fighters who attacked Custer's squad. The precise circumstances surrounding Custer's death are still unknown, though, and historians disagree with this assertion. Later, Rain in the Face turned themselves in to American authorities and served time behind bars. Following his release, he rose to prominence as a supporter of Native American rights and a well-liked character in Wild West performances, where he would share his combat stories. To help our community, please make sure to like and subscribe to our channel before we start. I'll share a factual story about myself with you if you're interested. Before I had to use crutches, I was a bad guy. My heart was horrible while I was a hunter and combatant, but it is good now. The men were scared of me, but the women liked me. Fighting is preferable to eating. The Reese and Crows examined their hair every morning to make sure it was still there while I was present since the soldiers were afraid of me. I was a formidable opponent, and people muttered my name in terror. Being aware that Indians like boasting, Harry raised his voice. "Rain, we knew you were a difficult guy, but we'd like to know about the time you were beaten by Tom Custer," Harry added. "How could a little guy like Tom Custer defeat you if you were so courageous?" Rain scowled as this made him uneasy. He weighed 195 pounds and stood 5 feet 9 inches tall. Although Captain Tom Custer was smaller, Rain gave his account after giving it careful thought. To our amazement, he continued to tell his version of the Custer massacre. He recalled the specifics of that fatal day while speaking with a lot of gesture and emotion. Rain refused to speak about the conflict despite years of pressure from government operatives and Army commanders. They made every effort, including promising him things, being kind, and even threatening him. However, it was unsuccessful. The poet Longfellow even wrote about Rain, who is well known for having killed Custer. Thus, when Rain eventually shared his experience, it was unexpected. I'm putting it in writing exactly like McLaughlin did. According to Rain, Gull and Sitting Bull set up camp at the Standing Rock 2 years prior to the major conflict. Every Indian there opposed the regime. Being Hunkpapa Sioux, they had no fear of anything. Friendly Indians, known as Yanktonus, congregated to the agency in an attempt to obtain supplies and food. We danced, raced, shot, and played games while having a blast in the hostile camp. We had a lot of ponies, buffalo, and deer to eat. The females liked me, and they would make fun of me to get me upset. I wanted to fight when I was upset. A female once challenged me to kill a white man at Fort Lincoln. With soldiers constantly on guard and rescouts close by, I told her it was too risky. However, she asserted that a courageous man is fearless. "Don't go if you're a coward. I'll ask another person who has danced at Sundance and isn't scared." I was unable to disregard that challenge. The young males did not laugh, but the other girls did. I would have murdered them for laughing, and they were afraid of me. I went to my lodge, got my pistol, bow, and pony, and painted my face black. Under cover of darkness, I crept out of the camp and traveled 45 miles north to Fort Lincoln. For 2 days, I waited for an opportunity to shoot a soldier. I had the opportunity to murder a woodcutter or a rewoman, but I preferred to give the girl who made fun of me a soldier's brass buttons instead. She sewed them onto her shawl after I did. I witnessed a horse doctor and the storekeeper visiting a spring one morning. About 100 yards away, Long Yellowhair and his men were riding back. I hurried forward, used my war club to strike the horse doctor and shoot the storekeeper. I then severed some of their buttons and pelted them with arrows. After hearing the shot, Long Yellowhair rushed back. I killed men, but I didn't have time to scalp them. I shouted for them to catch me as I leaped onto my pony. To the Cannonball River, they pursued me. I visited the Standing Rock Agency store the following winter. Since I hadn't signed the peace treaty, I wasn't given any rations. One arm of the storekeeper was present. Neither he nor the 30 bald troops frightened me. They all climbed on top of me as he sneaked up behind me. I was thrown onto a wagon and restrained until I reached the Lincoln guardroom. I wasn't treated like a chief, but more like a woman. They gave me just one blanket, shackled me, and placed me in a room. Throughout the winter, snow blew, fell through the crevices, and landed on me. It was chilly. I was once told to escape by the military after my little hair sprang free. I was aware that they intended to shoot me in the back. I threatened to tear out Little Hair's heart and consume it. We managed to escape one night when I was shackled to a white man. We fled and struck the Heart River's bank despite their gunfire. The following day, they apprehended the white man who had used a knife to cut the chains. I knew they would be searching for me, but I managed to escape. Sitting Bull and Gall were scared to come get me, but I was able to rejoin them. Little Hair knew I remembered my commitment when I showed him a photo of a bloodied heart on buffalo skin. I won his heart the next time I saw him. All I'll say is that. The most of this was confirmed to be accurate by the government's version of the sutler and surgeon Hansinger's demise. However, we were interested in Tom Custer's heart. Raina was shown a sketch of Custer's most recent charge by McFadden, who inquired as to if it resembled the fight. After examining it, Raina started giggling. "No, it's a false picture. Soldiers used weapons and revolvers instead of swords to attack us. They engaged in foot combat, with each guy carrying a horse. We battle in a circle, tying ourselves to our ponies. We paint ourselves and our ponies after stripping naked. Although we were better armed, this photo portrays us with bows and arrows. With ammunition lodged within, their guns only fired once. Yes, I did witness numerous firearms on the battlefield that still had shells in them. The soldiers' firearms malfunctioned. We knocked them down with our war clubs after realizing their firearms were inoperable. It was as simple as slaughtering sheep. We gave no mercy to those who pleaded for it. Like other images of Indians taken by white folks, this one is false. I'll show you how it actually appeared." Rain flipped the paper over and used a pencil to draw a big lateral S. "The Little Bighorn River is this. Our huts, which resembled a bent bow, were situated along the banks." "What was the number of lodges you owned?" Harry inquired numerous times 10. "We resembled grass blades. There were at least 1,000 lodges since there were between 4,000 and 6,000 Indians. Perched on a hill, Bull produced potent medication. He delivered a lengthy speech while carrying it in a backpack on an acoustic. He claimed that the Great Spirit informed him that while the soldiers were approaching, we would overcome them. We were pleased by his speech. Our runners informed us that the army would be arriving the next day. To deceive the re-scouts, Sitting Bull had the women erect deserted huts. Our actual lodges are struck by the undergrowth and a curve in the river. Sitting Bull then went off to prepare more medication and didn't come back until the battle was done. Despite being a great leader, he refrained from fighting that day. The head chief was Gall. The Cheyennes were headed by Crazy Horse. The Bannocks were headed by Goose. Despite not being a head chief, I was in charge of a group of ferocious Hunkpapas. We were aware that the soldiers were deceived by the deserted lodges and that their horses were exhausted. They believed that we were a tiny group. We fought valiantly and were prepared for them. When they broke up, we knew it was a mistake. To cut them off, Gall led the majority of the Indians up the river. We were happy to see that the re-scouts with the long yellow hair stayed behind. A few of our young men interrupted them from behind after we allowed them to cross the bluffs. The soldiers then charged once we displayed our line. I felt pleased. I had shown courage. As our fighters applauded, we continued to fight. I felt hot and tasted nasty as the soldiers' blood and brains splattered across my face. I got a new pony and charged back, shooting, chopping, and slashing because I was furious. I purchased another pony because this one was also shot. Little Hair appeared, and I was reminded of my commitment. Knowing that my white weasel-tailed charm would keep me safe, I was frantic and had no fears. I'm not sure how many people I killed in my attempt to get to him. I yelled at him and smiled when he recognized me. His lips moved, but I couldn't hear his voice over the cacophony. He was terrified. I used my revolver to shoot him when I was close enough. I had lost my gun. I'm not sure where I spit it in his face after jumping off my pony, cutting out his heart, and biting a piece off. I then shook it and rode away. I didn't scalp him because I was content and fed up with battling. All that mattered was that I had kept my promise. After that, I never went back to the battlefield. When the ladies arrived later, they killed the injured, stole their possessions, and chopped off their boots to make leather. To obtain rings more quickly, they even amputate fingers. Since he had cropped his hair and didn't wear a uniform, they looked for the scalp of the long yellow hair, but were unable to locate him. We celebrated that evening with a feast and a scalp dance. When Sitting Bull remarked, "I told you my medicine would work," you gained bravery from it. Gall disputed his assertion that he had won the battle, asserting that we were the ones who engaged in combat. All you produced was medicine. They became tense as a result. The argument between Gall and Sitting Bull prevented us from defeating the other people on the hill. Some Indians supported both, and both aspired to be leaders. I didn't give a damn. I was in charge of my own gang and disobeyed everyone. I wanted to dance because I was sick of arguing. We moved north after learning that more soldiers with large guns were on the way. Until we passed the border, they followed us. I remained there until Sitting Bull came back, and I accompanied him. I was happy to return home. That's my tale. I had never before told it to white men. I'm happy I informed you. I questioned Rain if he had killed his long yellow hair once he had finished speaking. "Who was it?" he said. "I'm not sure. Nobody's aware. Fighting in the dark was how it felt." Mac questioned why the other's long yellow hair wasn't scalped. "No one is too courageous to be scalped," Rain declared. The women questioned why they were unable to locate him. He had to have been concealed by other bodies. Mac asked about the Crow Scout, Curly, who said he had gotten away. "Curly is a liar," Rain declared. "He was absent from the battle. He fled like a coward after his pony broke down. The only chief who is still living to narrate the Custer fight is Rain, who is currently around 60 years old. Although he is able to write his name in English, he is unaware of its meaning. Despite having a small vocabulary in English, he can grasp the majority of what is stated. He is appreciative of future favors, rather than past ones, like other Indians. Despite his courage, he lacks morals. Nevertheless, he fulfills his commitments, although it requires persistence to persuade him to do so. He is still powerful and physically commanding at 60, much like the perfect Indian in Fenimore Cooper's books. Although Rain can understand nearly everything said in English, his vocabulary is limited to roughly 30 words, and he is unable to speak them in a way that anyone can understand. It takes a great deal of patience to get him to make any promises, but his redeeming quality is that you can rely on any promises he makes. I hope this first-hand story helps you see the Battle of Little Bighorn and the 1876 Great Sioux War from a different angle. Watch this space for more videos. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I want to provide you with more first-hand reports of other fights,